Hey everyone, update 41 is finally here. Let's go over some of the biggest changes that are going to affect PvP. Also, just let me know what your favorite changes are or your least favorite changes are for the upcoming patch. All right, so starting out, we have the 2 new dungeons. I mean, that was pretty standard. We all saw that coming. That's awesome. The new sets that are adding aren't really going to be anything that are too crazy, in my opinion. I think there's going to be one set in particular that's going to be kind of interesting. Tarnished Nightmare. I feel like that's going to kind of be interesting, and it might go into the meta. It might not. We'll see. It's 3 lines of crit chance, and also when you deal critical damage to an enemy, glass shards burst 8 meters around them, dealing physical damage to enemies in the burst, and applying the Sundered status effect, dealing additional physical damage, and also applying Minor Breach for 4 seconds. So that can occur once every 8 seconds as well. So depending on how much damage it does do, it could potentially be a nice little proc set damage. We'll see. I don't know how it scales. I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to be in open world itself. I just kind of want to see how it goes, but that's kind of the first thing that I wanted to go over real quick. The other sets didn't really interest me much. I don't really think that they have much of a place in PvP. That's kind of that. Moving on to our next thing, I thought the really cool thing was going to be the unified repair kits. They're all just going to be the same. They're just going to be stackable now. Also, on top of that, keep door repair kits, keep wall repair kits, mile gates, and siege weapons are all going to be the same repair kits now. So kind of cleans up your inventory a lot, so you don't have to carry a bunch of each. And then also, siege weaponry is going to be stackable as well. So all those oils that you're carrying, those cold fires, they're just going to be stackable now. Also, another slight change is the Undaunted key rewards for the DLC Undaunted daily quest. So normal is now going to be 2 keys, veteran is going to be 3 keys, and then veteran hard mode is going to be 4 keys. So that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't really affect me too much, but figured I'd say it too regardless for those of you that do care about it. So one of the biggest changes right here are the status effects, and I'm just going to go over it real quick. I'm just going to read this little paragraph. If you don't want to read it, just pause it and skim through. Regardless, I'm just going to start to read it right now. So status effects were our main priority, as almost all of them have received additional functionality changes to help make them feel more diverse from one another. For example, Poison has been adjusted to deal execute scaling damage, while Concuss deals bonus damage to recently affected targets. So all that stuff. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be different uses for status effects now, and it doesn't feel like they're all kind of just lumped together as extra sources of damage. So they kind of have a purpose now, and the extra damage from them looks like it's definitely going to be noticeable, and there are some things that are definitely going to be buffed by that. For example, I think Mag Wardens are going to be really affected by that Frost status effect buff. I think that that's going to really help them a lot. I'm going to go to the exact part in this where it shows that, but it's looking really good right now. But before we get to that part, Necromancer is getting a huge kind of rework as well, because let's be honest, it kind of needs it at this point. So they're changing the way Blast Bones works. So the magic version of Blast Bones, which is the one that hits harder, unfortunately, is going to be completely different. So instead of summoning it and the Blast Bones goes towards a target, you're going to summon it and it's going to go towards you instead. Then it's going to do bonus damage to your dot damage and your class abilities by 20%, I believe. So that extra damage kind of could potentially be a little game changing for Necromancer. I don't know, we'll see yet, but I'm kind of cautiously optimistic in a way, because let's be honest, Necromancer is terrible right now, so what worse can they do? So I'm kind of excited to see this. It kind of is going to buff your damage a lot on your other abilities, so I'm kind of cautiously optimistic to see this. I think that it's going to do some kind of interesting potential combos, so we'll see. I'm gonna start to do some builds on this right away, because I think that there could be some really nice, interesting mixes that you could do with something like that. So we'll see. So here are the big status effect changes. So burning reduced the damage of the status effect by 6%, and so that was used as a standard power for all the other status effects. So burning is kind of like the main status effect that they're kind of scaling everything else to. So the next one is going to be Chill. So it's going to increase the damage of the status effect by 106%. So that's what I was saying with Warden. Increasing the chill of that by 106%, I really think Warden's going to shine because of that. Mag Warden is going to really shine. Concussed increases the damage of the status effect by 106%, and this effect now deals additional 10% or 15% damage to targets that have been recently concussed. This operates the same way as Wall of Elements conditional effects do. So that's going to be interesting as well. I'm kind of nervous with all of these status effects getting buffed, and everybody already runs Ellie Susceptibility. I have a feeling that people are going to die a lot quicker now, which honestly, I'm kind of not opposed to. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm really excited to see it. So, moving on to the next status effect, Diseased. Increases the damage of the status effect by 88%. So, the damage on that is increased as well. That is cool to see. And so, this effect is also going to deal additional damage in a 6-meter radius around target, applying minor defile to all enemies nearby. That's interesting, and that can occur once every 4 seconds. Alright, Diseased, you're looking interesting. That's going to be a nice little AoE damage. Alright. That's cool. I'm really excited to see these status effects in action in open world. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it looks kind of interesting. Also, the hemorrhaging status effect reduces the damage of the status effect by 58% per tick. Okay, that's fine. It's one of the stronger status effects for sure. This effect can now stack up to 3 times, increasing the damage by 100% per stack. This will result in a 25% damage increase when at maximum stacks compared to before, while dealing less damage if you cannot constantly keep your stacks active. As such, the damage now updates dynamically per tick. Oh! Damn! That is interesting. Hemorrhaging. Wow. I know that rending is going to always apply hemorrhaging because that's what it does, but I also saw that they changed it so that a lot of new abilities apply hemorrhaging as well. I think I have it right here. Give me a second. All right, where was it? Okay, so these are from the 3rd set of patch notes right here. So, hemorrhaging. These are a lot of things that are going to be applying some status effects right here. So, Gravelord, in the Sacrificial Bones, which is, I think, the Stam version of Blast Bones, you're going to apply Disease status effects, so it's going to get that AoE damage. Interesting. Cool. Backlash is going to do Sundered status effect. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but this is what I was looking at. Lacerate. This ultimate and its morphs now apply the hemorrhaging status effects to each tick. So if you have rending on somebody and lacerate, you're going to be applying the hemorrhaging status effect so quickly on your enemies, and that's going to be so much extra damage. All right, that's cool. All right, that is interesting. That's going to be a lot of damage. And then Executioner is bleed damage. Cool. Vampire, Eviscerate. That and its morphs are going to apply hemorrhaging status effect. Again, another hemorrhaging. And then Werewolf, again, that's also going to get a hemorrhaging status effect as well. Sorry. All right, so back to the original patch notes. So that was hemorrhaging. Overcharge increases the damage of the status effect by 106%. Okay, cool. Also, you get magic back from the activator. Cool. Cool. All right. That's awesome. Poison status effect reduces the damage of the status effect by 30% per tick, reduces the duration down to 4 seconds, down from 6. Okay, and the damage is now considered execute damage and deals up to 100% bonus damage to targets under 100% health. As such, the damage is now update dynamically per tick. Okay, so that's going to be awesome for when you want your enemies at lower health. Something like Poison Injection is going to really be interesting now because that's going to apply Poison status effect. And that's already considered an execute. So that's going to be kind of a double execute. And I'm kind of nervous about that because Poison Injection, you could just apply that from range as a Zergling and just hit your enemies with that. So that's very interesting. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I think it's going to be very strong. And then finally, the Sundered status effect. Increases the damage of the status effect by 106%. And then this effect is also going to grant you 100 weapon spell damage for 4 seconds. Okay, cool. Another slight change is Fate Carver, which is the beam on Arcanist, is going to reduce the damage of this ability down by 7% per tick. So that's a significant change. I don't really use beam in PvP at all. I find it to be too unreliable, so it doesn't really affect me. Also reduces the potency of the damage shield of Pragmatic by 16%, so that's a bit of a nerf as well. But I think that that's warranted. I really feel like Arcanist needs some defensive nerfs. Not really an offensive one, but that's just my personal opinion. I feel like the beam is more of a PvE kind of skill. I know a lot of people do use it in PvP, but I personally don't. I know different playstyles, but you know, that's just my opinion on Arcanist. Dragonite Combustion, I think that this is really cool. Combustion, the passive is now going to increase your damage done with the burning and poison by up 20%, basically 40%, up from 33%. So I think that's great. I think that DK kind of needs some love right now. I know a lot of you guys don't agree with me on this, but I really feel like DK in general is mid. I've been playing it recently. I've been trying to play it, and I used to main DK so much, but I really feel like the current state of DK is it's so mid. It's so mid. Sorry. Also, the passive is now going to grant 1,000 magic and stamina whenever you apply burning or poisoned. That's awesome. That's awesome. Getting magic and stand back, that's going to be really cool for your sustain. I think that you're going to be able to sustain a lot more. I think that's something that DK needs, and you don't really need defensive. I don't really think you need any kind of defensive gear because of stuff like that. I think that's awesome. So there are a few other changes, but nothing like too big. I want to move down to Gravelord right here. This is what I was talking about earlier with Blast Bones. So they renamed it to Sacrificial Bones because, okay, cool. And here are, so this ability and its morphs now summon a skeleton that after their formation delay jump to their owner to infuse with them the power for 10 seconds, increasing their damage done with Gravelord and damage over time abilities by 15%. So that's all. They changed that. This is the first set of patch notes. They changed it in a later set of patch notes, so it's all Necromancer class abilities. So it's all Necromancer class abilities and dots by 15%. And these abilities are no longer require a target to activate, but instead you could require you to be in combat. Okay, interesting. So the magic morph, which was like the original version of it, this morph extends the duration bonus to 20 seconds and increases the damage done to 20%. So I think that's very interesting. Necromancer already has a lot of dot passives, so adding this is going to really increase your dot damage. Combo this with something like Deadly, and I really feel like you can make a really solid dot pressure build on Necromancer, and I'm really excited to see how that turns out. I'm just saying, I want to see how it goes. Blighted Blast Bones kind of stays the same. Yeah, that basically just stays exactly the same, I think. So, yeah. Alright, so moving on. Nightblade's getting some buffs because ZeniMax thinks that Nightblade needs buffs for some reason. Increases the damage of Incapacitating Strike by 10% and extending the duration up to 12%, up from 8. But you no longer get Reef for slotting, so okay, cool. I don't agree with these changes, but what do I know? I'm just a player in the game. Concealed Weapon is also going to deal 10% increased damage at all times and deals an additional 10% damage for 15 seconds after leaving stealth or invisibility rather than granting Major Berserk, which is, on one hand, I don't like this buff, but on the other hand, I think I also like this buff because getting Major Berserk on your character is one of the reasons why I think bow proc hits really hard sometimes. So I'm really glad that your bow proc won't be hitting as hard when you have Major Berserk now. I think that's awesome. That being said, do I think that Concealed Weapon needs a buff? I do not think so. I feel like you could have just taken away Major Berserk and the class still would have been fine. These are all not really anything that has to do with PvP right here. Alright, so Sorcerer is getting a huge rework. There's a lot of stuff with Encase and some other skills, but the real big skill that I wanted to go over was Conjured Ward. I think this is going to be one of the main reasons why you're just going to see a lot of Mag Sorks this patch. I think this is going to be a huge change that I am very, very scared to see because I think that this is the biggest reason why why Arcanist is busted right now. Adding a heal to your shield ability, I don't think that's a good idea. So, Conjured Ward. This ability and Hardened Ward will now heal you for 15% of your max health or magic, whichever is higher, if no pets were shielded by the abilities. Also, Regenerative Ward. This morph now heals you for 10% of your max health or magic, regardless of if a pet was affected by the shield or not. I am scared about that. I don't like the fascination of having a shield and a heal together. I don't think that that's a good idea. I think that's one of the main reasons why Arcanist is so easy and defensively strong. I think that that's a very strong combo to have, and I'm not sure that this is going to be a great move in open world. You're going to see a lot of max orcs running around now that this is a big change. And also, real quick, Warden's getting a pretty nice buff as well. So right here, we're going to see Northern Storm increases the damage done with this morph by 50%, which 50% is a huge damage buff. And on top of that, activating the ultimate is now going to grant you 50 weapon and spell damage for 5 seconds each tick, and then up to a maximum of 9 times. So that increases your weapon and spell damage by up to 450, rather than increasing it overall by 300. And then that also is crazy because that extra damage is going to be damaged by 50%. So that is... whew. That's going to do so much damage in my opinion. I'm nervous to see that, but I'm also very excited to see that as well. And the last change I wanted to go over real quick, I can't find it anywhere for some reason. I don't know why, but they're also changing the way Masters Do Wield works. So I think this is a really good change personally because you're not going to see it as often. They're changing it so that's going to be based off of your max weapon spell damage. So to get to the point where it's at now in the current update 40, you need to get a maximum of 7,800 weapon spell damage, which is a high number to get to. Some people do get to that. I've been playing with more than that recently, and it's kind of gonna be interesting because I think that that damage is gonna be kind of insane if you can surpass that, but for the most part, most players won't have that. So I think that what it's going to do is going to take away the frequency of you seeing Masters Dual Wield in PvP, and I think it's kind of gonna make it so only a few players are gonna run it. I think you're still gonna see it semi-often, but not to the same degree that you're seeing it now. And those, I think, are the big changes for update 41. If I missed anything, I apologize. I feel like I went over everything that was going to be really game-changing in my opinion. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I wanted to go over all this before the update actually hit. That way, you know, we can kind of go over this together and you guys can be prepared for it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. That's always awesome to me. Or if you're already subscribed, just hit that thumbs up for me. That'd be awesome. Let me know what kind of changes you're looking forward to the most, what you're not looking forward to in the comments below. I would appreciate seeing you guys. It'd be awesome to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for being here and watching to the end, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Later.